Thorne this morning is being ably supported by Senator Andrea Worrell, who's the spokesman on health. Thorne, the former president of the Young Democrats, Shaquani Hunt, and Senator Ryan Walters. They will all, when they speak, along with Ms. Maxine McLean, who is the coordinator of Mr. Thorne's support team for the spokespersons, Felicia.
She used to sit and to the House of Assembly where she sat. So her family, I happen to know Peter personally. Peter and I were at school together. I extended condolences to him on the day of her death. He is here in Barbados. Her daughter served at very, very high level, a very high level in government. And we recognize the contribution. All Barbadians recognize the contribution that Dame Maisie made to this country. And we just ask that the Lord should take her on a good journey and preserve her in eternity. Now, the other business today, as I said, is to introduce our newest Senator, Andrea Worrell. Andrea sits to my right, and Andrea is as Barbadian as any of us ever will be. He is from St. John, born in Sherborne in St. John. He had the finest in Barbadian education. He was educated at Hockerso Primary. He tells me that from there he went to the Lodge School. He was in the cadets, and he was head boy. So that Andre is well used to leadership. He was a member having left Lodge School, he became a member of the Optimist Club. Here's a man again following in the example of Dave Mazie, rooting himself in community participation and community activity. Church-wise, again, rooted in that sung Barbadian tradition. He was a member at the Mount Tabor Moravian, and he also spent some time, as Barbadians do, they migrate between the churches for one reason or another, and he went to Sherborne New Testament. But at Sherborne New Testament, he became the youth president. He has been a president of the Young Dems, and this is a return to the Senate. We've gone for somebody who is not new to the Senate. He is returning to the Senate. He served from 2010 to 2018. That's 8 years of experience in the Senate. So he's not new to that august body. So we want to welcome you, Andre, back to the Senate. The party is very confident that together with Senator Ryan, you will do an excellent job. I want to tell the public that already there's a very healthy dynamic between these two young men. In fact, Ryan said to Andre and to me a few days ago, he reminded Andre that Andre was one of the persons who brought him into the Democratic Labour Party. So I know that there's going to be a very healthy group dynamic, certainly among the parliamentarians, the three of us, and the spokespersons, many of whom are with us here this morning. I want to say to the public, give the public the assurance that when those spokespersons met on Thursday, I think it was for the first time, I mean, we left here feeling as if we were related to each other. There is, Barbadians, a very healthy dynamic between the members of this new group of parliamentarians and spokespersons and advisors. The advisors are represented here this morning by Ms. Maxine McLean, another outstanding Barbadian who has made a mark in this country, and we are apologetic about the leadership of Maxine in terms of giving guidance to this group of spokespersons. Maxine, I always thank you, and I will never cease to thank you for the outstanding work that you are doing for this body. Now, I know the media has a very strong appetite and a craving for the salacious. That will not, I may disappoint you this morning. I know that you have come here to hear about the departure of Senator Watson. I know you're interested in that. I myself, when I first came to this office, I said at State House that I like to be guided by the injunction of Proverbs 3:5, and that I always trust in the Lord with all my heart, that I lean not unto my own understanding, that in all my ways I acknowledge him, and that I trust God to direct my paths. And I want you to know that in this matter, I have not forgotten the injunction of Proverbs 3:5. I don't know how other individuals hear the voice of God, but certainly I hear it through close friends. And whatever had been my inclination in dealing with this issue, I want to confess to you that some very good friends and colleagues of mine became the voice of God in advising me as to how this matter should be approached. I want to give the media the assurance, I want to give Barbadians the assurance, I want to give my colleagues the assurance that our purpose here this morning is not to assassinate the character of anyone, and certainly not Ms. Watson. We are not in the business of disparaging people's reputations. I will simply say this, that earlier this year, I telephoned Ms. Watson and asked her to serve in the Senate. Now, I will say to you, and I don't mean this in any offensive way, Ms. Watson and I are not friends. We've never been friends. Obviously, we know each other. Her father was at law school contemporaneously with me. And I don't know that we had ever had any telephone conversation over the years. Indeed, I remember one day the parliament last year came in and they excoriated her I remember, and I don't mind calling names, I remember that exercise was led by Minister Kerry Simmons. And when he had finished his, what I call his tirade, the Prime Minister came in and said that's one of the best speeches she's ever heard in there. And the Parliament went into applause, and they produced the video after that, and I'm not embarrassed. The video that was produced showed everybody thumping the table, and it showed me with my hand up there on principle. I was against the excoriation and the disparagement of the lady. I did not think that Parliament should be used for that purpose. And so when I called Ms. Watson earlier this year, I called her on principle. I knew that she had built up a record of service at the utility rate hearings, the fair trading hearings, and I felt, and I still do feel, that electricity rates are too high in this country. I feel that high electricity rates are at the heart of inflation in this country. Everybody uses electricity, and if we're going to have electricity rates that are too high, it would indicate to me, everybody's using it, it would indicate to me that high electricity rates are contributing towards inflation, and I say unjust inflation. So that I thought that someone involved in advocacy against high electricity rates should be a voice that is represented in the Senate. And it was on that principal position that I asked Ms. Watson to be that voice for consumers on the issue of excessively high electricity rates. And I pause and I say this, that if we have hot sun 365 days in a year, minus 5 or 10, I mean, we're in a country in which solar power is easily available, cheap, and we're still paying high electricity rates. There's some problem. There is some problem in this country with electricity generation. Why can it not be cheaper? It needs to be cheaper, and it has to be cheaper. And a new government has to enter into a relationship with Light and Power for the benefit of the consumers in this country. That is why Ms. Watson was in the Senate. And Ms. Watson was in the Senate after, of course, I was admitted into membership of the party, because you will remember that before I was admitted into membership of the party, the then General Secretary spoke out loud and told Barbadians, Ms. Watson and Mr. Walters are not speaking for the party. Therefore, I was admitted into membership, and obviously their voices became the voices of the party. Now, as I said, I'm not here to disparage Ms. Watson. I'm not here to assassinate her character, but I made that appointment on principle. That appointment came to an end last week. This week, I think yesterday when you were sworn in, Andre, it came to an end. Now, I know the presence here this morning is very keen to engage a battle between us and Ms. Watson. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're not going to get that battle this morning. I know that good news does not sell, and I know bad news drives the media. I'm sorry if I have to say to you that this boring exercise this morning may not sell any papers for you. I'm sorry to say that. But I know you insist that we say something about it. I know that you do. I know that you are holding us to a higher standard than you have held the Prime Minister of this country. I know that, because I know that the Prime Minister of Barbados dismissed several persons from the Senate. And I'm not here to accuse you, media, but media did not make the inquiry of the Prime Minister that they make of us in this party. They did not. So that the word we use is double standard. All of a sudden, this is the major issue in Barbados. Why this young man was being sworn in yesterday? Another young man, probably half his age, was dying in Silver Hill. He was dead, yes, he was dead in Silver Hill. A few days earlier, a little 12-year-old girl in the same Silver Hill. And a few weeks earlier, another young man died in Silver Hill. I said yesterday that one of the differences with crime these days is its brazen nature. We've had rampant crime in this country before. I think we had 50 deaths a few years ago. Beg your pardon. This is water, by the way. we've had, yeah, that's like a deputy. We've had violent crime, rampant violent crime in this country previously. The difference now is its brazen nature. How does a 12-year-old child ask a parent, am I going to die? We have children. Can you imagine your 12-year-old child asking you that? How does a child on a street observe a man at 9 o'clock in the morning being killed? How does that happen in our country? And how does the government say, and how do the supporters of a government saying that a government does not have responsibility? They don't have responsibility for the killing, but the government has a responsibility to implement measures for the safety of its citizens. That's why they're government. That's a political responsibility. So that when I hear people say, oh, we are trying to politicize crime, it's not a matter of politicizing crime. That's why you have a police force, police service. And that's why you have the Attorney General in charge of the police service in terms of oversight, not administratively, in terms of oversight. And so that's the kind of country we're living in. And living in a country with such violence, living in a country and violence, there's commercial violence as well, because prices in this country are too high. And we believe that there's corruption. And there is no doubt that in this country, there is moral decay. Look at those videos with the little children. And if this country, if the media believes that the departure from the Senate of Miss Watson is more important than all those things, we are losing our way. We are losing our way. But if you hold us to a higher standard, let us examine the standard of the government when it comes to the departure of persons from the Senate. Sir Richard Cheltenham, I've known Sir Richard Cheltenham for 40 years. Colleagues at the bar. I believe we enjoy a good relationship. We've actually done cases together. He will contradict me if he wishes to, but one morning he went to the Senate, somebody whispered in his ear that that was his last morning. Yeah, you frowned. You have that quizzical look. Yes. Sir Richard Cheltenham was asked to demit office, and he can contradict me if he wishes. Within a few hours of his demission from that office, did the media descend on him? Was there a firestorm? Was there a firestorm across social media? No. No, and that is what I mean when I talk about, double standards. Asking us to elevate ourselves to a higher standard. We must do what the government did not do. And so Sir Richard Cheltenham departed from the Senate. Not a word. Edmund Hinkson was fired as a minister. Does anyone in Barbados know why he was fired, except that he came to my office a few weeks after, engaged in a tirade? He can deny this, but he came into my office, my law office on Pimpole Street. I don't know why he came there. And I asked somebody, but why is he here? He's going on 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half hour, and he's still talking. And he's still complaining. And when he's on the stairs on the way back down, he says, up to now, she ain't telling me why she fired me yet. Let Edmund Hinkson deny that. The next parliamentary sitting, the man was saying the exact opposite. He was praising the same prime minister that he came into my office and castigated for firing him. He's hearing me if he's back from China, and he can come back and deny it. George Payne. Fired. They told George Payne why he was fired. The people in Barbados rushed across social media asking why these people were fired, or they're not important. Trevor Prescott fired. Anybody asked why Trevor Prescott was fired? The media carried front page stories with 2 and 3 days about his dismissal. Not a word. But we are held to a higher standard. We are supposed to come here this morning and assassinate the character of Miss Watson. We are not going to do it. The lady is entitled to dignified departure from the Senate. And she has departed from the Senate, and we insist it must be dignified. Peter Phillips, he used to be a junior minister. He's on the back bench now, rewarded with that trip to China with Edmund Hinkson to say that China, they support the one China policy. And on that trip, Gregory Nichols. So we sent 3 people in first class travel and a five-star hotel in China to say that they support the one China policy on behalf of the government of Barbados. You see, whenever one of them gets fired, they get rewarded with a little plane trip. All right, we don't have a plane trip to offer Miss Watson. Miss Watson is entitled to dignity and dignified departure. Now, those are the men, but the women, because they've made it a gender issue. During the first term of this government between 2018 and 2022, Miss Cadell was fired. Marsha Cadell was fired from the cabinet. Did you see a firestorm across social media and the established media? No, you did not. I said in my speech on Sunday that people respect power when it is exercised, and they fear it when it is abused. Why does not anybody ask Miss Morley to explain the departures of these people? Are we so afraid? I'm not accusing media of being afraid, but are we in this country so afraid? The media has a very, very heavy responsibility in setting and establishing standards of information. Sorry, I was looking at the media. The media has a very, very high responsibility in terms of reflecting the way the public relates to issues. Nobody asked Marsha Cadell, nor the Prime Minister of this country, to say why Miss Cadell, a woman fired by another woman, was dismissed. And if we thought that were enough, I used to see Miss Cynthia Ford coming in there on the front bench. Tomorrow morning, I saw her on the back bench. Then I have the pleasure of addressing her as the Deputy Speaker. That's another story. But she went too. Miss Lucille Moore, lest we forget, was dismissed as a minister from the Senate. What said the front pages on that occasion? Nary a word. She's gone. Because if we perceive that there's an abuse of power, we all get afraid. But you may perceive that this group here, we are gentle people. We are people of civil conduct. But I say to you again, civility is not to be mistaken for weakness. We are not afraid of anybody in this country. We are not afraid of the Prime Minister. We are not afraid of the Barbados Labour Party government. That's one of the reasons we're here this morning. Displaying ourselves in opposition to the Barbados Labour Party government. And that is legitimate opposition to a government which is oppressing the people of this country, which is infringing against the rights of people in this country. Lucille Moore was fired. Cynthia Ford was fired. Marsha Cadell was fired. The people who call themselves the feminists, and I respect feminism, I do respect feminism because I know that feminism is the newest frontier in the fight for people's rights. I am the son of a woman, and I know how women in this country were oppressed and across this region and across this globe. So any man who does not, born a woman who does not support feminism, I think he needs to revisit his personal and political philosophies. And this government fired 3 young women, Marsha Cadell, Cynthia Ford, and Lucille Moore, from ministries. Now, I was in a place last night. I went to Sheraton. And let me tell you about Sheraton. I walked through the car park. Young women walked up to me. We are with you. I went inside. We are with you. Young men, keep fighting. We are with you. So that when you see social media is an interesting place, the BLP has deployed its psychopaths to repeat the propaganda. To repeat the propaganda that we can't do this and we can't do that. Look, since last weekend, we have had several people applying for membership of this party, including people who live in Connecticut in the United States of America, including people who live in England. But there's a propaganda out there that we are in decline. We are in deep decline. It is not true. It is not true. But I want to come especially to something I heard on the news last night. One commentator, nice young man, he said that we have violated the principle of gender equality in the Senate, that you must always have a man and a woman. Now, he seems to have forgotten that between 2018, beg your pardon, between 2013 and 2018, 5 years consecutively, the senators for the Barbados Labour Party opposition were Dr. Jerome Walcott and Mr. Wilfred Abrams, two men. Didn't hear the advocates for gender equity. Beg your pardon? Nobody said anything. So this rule that we have violated, for 5 years, this rule was violated. Not a man said a word. That is what I meant when I said we are to be held to this higher standard of conduct. That if Miss Watson leaves with dignity, we have to put a woman there. We put a man there who's competent. We go for competence and we go for merit. We are here in leadership of a meritocracy. And if a man is as fit as this young man with the CV that I read, he will serve. And he will be given the opportunity to serve. Yes. That is our position. That is our position. So that let those who have come with all of their theories to apply to this practical situation, let them revisit history. Let them revisit the fact that we have done nothing that violates, beg your pardon, that violates the interests of women. Chad Blackman replaced Lorenzo Harewood. I'm going to pause and make a note. I made a note here and I forgot John King. Let me tell you about John King. John King, a good young man. Good young man. My parliamentary colleague between 2018 and 2022. I'm not going to bring John's private business into a public domain. But they uprooted John King out of the parliament, out of the House of Assembly, placed him into the Senate. They uprooted John King. If John King wants to go public and say, oh, you want me in the camera? If John King wants to tell the people of this country and this diaspora that he voluntarily left the House of Assembly, that's a matter for John. But the public wants the truth, and I'm going to tell the truth here this morning, that John King was unfairly treated in his forced departure from the House of Assembly, and he was compensated with a seat in the Senate. John, they were unfair to you. And I did not hear the storm on social media. Perhaps they feel John is a nobody. Perhaps they feel so. But John was uprooted unfairly by the Prime Minister of this country. So I just wrote John King's name down because I'd forgotten it. I was coming to Chad Blackman. Chad Blackman, and they will hear the truth. Chad Blackman, this is another name, Sonia Brown. We have so many names. Thank you, Felicia. Look, there's a young man called Lorenzo Harewood. He lives in New York. He lives in New York as the Consul General. You might wonder, why is Thorne there speaking highly of people who are not members of his party? I like to speak the truth. Lorenzo is one of the most pleasant young men you'd ever meet. Lorenzo Harewood. He grew up in Christchurch East, I believe. His mom used to be a hawker in the Oysters market. Like John King, they probably feel he's nobody. And the branch, the Barbados Labour Party branch, let them deny it. They're having a meeting this weekend, I believe. The Barbados Labour Party branch found favor in Lorenzo. They felt that Lorenzo was a better candidate for the House of Assembly than is the man who said that the empty pipes are leaking in St. John. They felt that he was a better candidate. We're going to take off the gloves this morning. We haven't come here to beat up on Miss Watson. Let Miss Watson leave with her dignity. But let us expose what the Barbados Labour Party has done to working class people in this country. When Lorenzo Harewood was uprooted from service in the Senate in Barbados because the Barbados Labour Party branch of Christchurch East felt that he was a better candidate than Wilfred Abrams, and he's gone into exile. He is a reluctant Consul General. He didn't tell me this, but the objective circumstances would indicate to me that he is a reluctant Consul General up there in exile. He wanted to be a member of Parliament. The young man is a young man of merit. You wonder why I would say that. You wonder if he comes back and runs, if I would continue to say that. Yes, I would. I would say But I would say to him that he's not in a party that embraces the interests of people like him, people like John King. And so he is in exile. And he is in exile to protect Wilfred Abrams and to keep Wilfred Abrams in the seat in Christchurch. But the people up there are going to resolve that. So I say to Lorenzo, don't worry. Now, they spoke of us asking Miss Watson to depart, and that this is the first time in history, and this brilliant woman has been replaced by a man, according to the gentleman on TV last night. Oh, we have violated a principle. Reverend Charles Morris, I'm going to raise my voice because I want you to remember, media. Oh, I have to look in the camera. Shanika Oda Roberts was a senator in this country, and she was removed and replaced by Charles Morris. Now, I don't know. You can't sue me for this. I don't know that Reverend Charles Morris has a reputation for supporting feminist ideals. But he replaced a young woman, and that young woman has been sent to head an organization, an industry that has not produced anything. That up to the estimates this year, the minister admitted that the taxpayers of this country had spent $15 million on a marijuana industry that has not produced one vial of medicinal marijuana. But she has been sent there to head that body. She was taken out of the Senate without any explanation by the Prime Minister of this country. But we're being held to account. Or defend what you've done. Say why Miss Watson departed. Again, I have to apologize to you. I know that the appetite and the craving for the salacious is great among the media. Please accept my apology. Please accept my apology. If you think that we are too decent, if you think that we hold to certain standards, that if a young lady leaves office, please let her leave in peace. I could give details of our relationship, and by that I mean the political relationship from February until today. That would involve me getting into a battle with the lady that would be unseemly. Please, 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 I beg you. Let Miss Watson go with her dignity. We certainly intend to keep our dignity intact. We certainly intend to continue to be a unified party. I know the detractors feel somewhat disappointed that we have named a team of spokespersons. As I've said, I don't believe in the word shadow cabinet. I believe it's pompous. We are pressing ahead with a team of spokespersons. We are pressing ahead with the naming of candidates if they want our business in the broad road. We interview candidates right here, including yesterday they did. We have been interviewing candidates. We have been interviewing the people who are showing a renewed and energized interest in this party. And there is out there on social media a clique. And it's very interesting, and I'm going to say this. I'm not going to be bashful about this. The Barbados Labour Party psychopaths in social media are saying the same things as those persons who departed last weekend, saying the same thing. Put two and two together. You know, I like the name. They've given me the name of the rat. That's my issues. And I was so amused last week when I was walking out of party headquarters, and the voice, it's really the voice that caught me. Look at the rat. I was so amused by that. I started to laugh. But, you know, I could laugh because she's honest. She was genuinely upset. She's genuinely upset that she had to be excluded because what we did on Sunday, we did to preserve the party. We did to preserve an annual conference. You do not come to an annual conference and behave like the people who went to the United States Capitol and tried to take it off. You don't do that. You just simply don't do that. So that is a crisis we had to avert. But there are people who are angry so that when the lady sat down under the tree, I say, look at the rat. I just laugh, but as I said, that's an honest expression of anger. But unfortunately, she got caught up with a group that was trying to disrupt and destroy a conference, and you simply don't do that. But she's honest. I can't say to you that some of those voices, Maxine, forgive me and permit me to do this. I can't say to you that some of those voices on social media are honest. They are pursuing a political agenda. They know that this party is growing in strength. And it hurts them. And not only does it hurt them, but it scares them. Yeah. They are afraid. We are supposed to be the ones who are afraid. We're not afraid. We are not afraid. They are afraid. They're afraid of the fact that we went to St. Lucie, and the people of St. Lucie told us, put your house in order and we're going to support you. They're afraid that we went to St. Michael into 3-4 constituencies, Felicia, and the people there told us the same thing. Put your house in order. We are ready for you. Because the people of this country are abandoning the Barbados Labour Party government. There are people in this country who can't bring themselves to accept it, because people never bring themselves to accept the departure of a tyrant. I say that Ms. Morty is a tyrant. And I say that this country must get used to the idea that it has the power to dismiss a tyrant, and that is why they're afraid. That is why their social media psychopaths are writing the same thing, the same narrative. Well, I don't like being called the rat. I'm Ralph Anthony Thorne. My parents named me, my beloved parents named me. So if they call me a rat, fine. But I know I intend to continue to work for the people of this party and beyond this party. I intend, and we intend to continue to work for the people of this country. Because there's a moral decay that is gnawing away at the core of Barbados. There's a spiritual darkness that is engulfing this country. We know it. We know it. We have never lived in a country before in which a young man is being sworn in for the Senate at 10 o'clock. And half an hour earlier, a young man is lying dead in the street. They used to kill each other at midnight and 3 o'clock in the morning. On mornings. St. Albans a few years ago, a man is taking his child to school and a man pushes a gun in the car and kills him, shoots him dead. That's the country we're living in. That is why I said moral decay and spiritual darkness. Who is responsible for it? I don't think we have the power to say who's responsible for it. But we know that this government has neglected its responsibility to the people of this country. I know that this government was for cricket development, and not one club has been enhanced as a result. This government is telling the people of this country lies under the leadership of tyranny. And they cannot get used to the idea that tyranny is about to be dismissed. And they are afraid. We know they're afraid. So let them keep their protests up on social media, but media, and members of the party, and the people of Barbados. Do not be daunted in your desire to free the people, to rid these people, or to rid Barbados of these people who are mismanaging your affairs. Inflation, crime, corruption. 3 years later, you promised the Republican Constitution and you can't get it done. I could go on and on. We're not in that business. We are not in that business. We see ourselves as being people of integrity, of decency, of civility, and therefore we're not in that business. We're in the business of rescuing this country from this government. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Thorne. We now have Senator Andrea Worrell, who will address you. Senator Worrell.
Good morning to members of the media here assembled, and to those of you viewing on our social media pages. First, I would like to thank the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Ralph Thorne, for this opportunity to serve the people of Barbados in the Senate for a second period. As he said, I was first appointed to the Senate in 2010 by the late Prime Minister David Thompson, and then again in 2013 by Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Frandil Stewart. So it is an honor for me to join this noble cause of the opposition leader, Ralph Thorne, in terms of speaking out for the people of Barbados. That is my intention. And that has always been my passion, to articulate the issues for the young persons, for small business, for people who are not getting what they should be getting from our social state. We want to see ourselves as a developed nation, but yet so many Barbadians have to run to a politician if they want to get something in Barbados. I never accepted that. I never saw that as being right. And these are things that I do not appreciate. I am the spokesperson for health, and that is something that I will take up passionately, because I have seen and I've heard the many complaints of people in Barbados who are concerned about healthcare delivery in Barbados at present. The QEH is almost a nightmare for you to go to. Many people fear having to spend a night or weekend in the Queen Elizabeth Hospital waiting for treatment. And many persons die waiting for treatment before they're actually seen. So these are concerns that need to be addressed. These are things that the public of Barbados need to hear persons speaking about. You have nurses who have been trained in Barbados who have not yet had an opportunity to work in Barbados as nurses because of an exam which other nurses come to Barbados and they're not required to take. But our nurses have the training from the Barbados Community College, and we have a shortage of nurses in Barbados. Why not give these people an opportunity to practice what they learned at the Barbados Community College and assist in the shortage in the healthcare sector? We have a situation in the healthcare sector where every single department is understaffed. Doctors are leaving, nurses are leaving. These are people that we invested millions of dollars in terms of training. And they're not leaving simply because of better passes, but they're frustrated at the management style within the hospital setting. They're frustrated with the problems that they're facing. At this time, I would also want to extend condolences to the family of the psychiatric patient who lost his life tragically on Tuesday night or Monday night, I believe it was, or Sunday. Now, that is something that is concerning to us, because the psychiatric hospital should have protocols in place to prevent things like that happening. We know that he was a patient on the A ward, and it was alleged it was as a result of an altercation with another patient on the A ward. Those of you who know the A ward, that is the ward that you would place the most serious psychiatric patients who need constant supervision. I do not want to go into details now, but that is the story that we need to follow up on. And I'm happy that the director of the hospital, David Leacock, has issued a statement that they will bring additional information. We understand and appreciate now that it's a police investigation, but we oftentimes spend a lot of attention focusing on what is happening at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, because that is where the majority of Barbadians interact. But the psychiatric hospital is on the back burner, and that needs our attention as well. And I intend to hold the Minister of Health his feet to the fire and insist that they bring information to the public of Barbados. What is the true story at the psychiatric hospital? Are there any manpower challenges at the psychiatric hospital? And let us know. And I'm hoping, well, they did say that the family of the psychiatric patient who lost his life, that they will be provided with support and counseling. That is very important. And also too for the staff and persons who may have witnessed or be involved in that they be provided with the necessary support and counseling. I also want to raise attention to another matter in healthcare which fell under the radar. A couple weeks ago, by what I would call a covert whistleblower, alerted Barbadians to the fact that there was a case of monkeypox in Barbados. It was done under the disguise of a statement which was issued in 2022. It was put out there without a date. And I think that this was the actions of a whistleblower in Barbados who knew that there was a case of monkeypox in Barbados, but recognized that the government of Barbados had not alerted the public and put out that statement. Then, in order to save face, the ministry then issued a statement where through the back door, they allowed us to know that there was a recent case 6 weeks ago, which would have been around the crop over period and possibly the World Cup period. That would have been mid-July. And then there was another case in Barbados in January 2024. Now, these are things that we should not take lightly. The World Health Organization issued a list of standards for the best practices in dealing with monkeypox. You would have heard over the last couple of weeks that there was intensified communication with regard to monkeypox because of the outbreak in parts of Africa, and they said it was becoming a global concern. There actually a protocol which was put in place from August 2023, and it was supposed to have expired on the 20th of August 2024, but it was extended to the 20th of August 2025. Monkeypox is a notifiable disease. So yes, notification does not mean that they have to tell us, the public, but there are certain protocols that the Ministry of Education must follow in terms of the Ministry of Health must follow in terms of giving notice that we did have a case of monkeypox. It is also in these protocols, there are protocols for communication with the public as well, because you want to reduce the stigma of monkeypox, and you also want to make the public aware, because many of us do not know what to look for in a case of monkeypox, and that is why you would have heard the media campaign after. But why I think that the Ministry of Health needs to rebuild its level of trust with the people of Barbados, and we should not be finding out of situations like this via a backdoor, via a covert whistleblower, putting out information to the public after the fact. The ministry needs to take control of this information because, one, they need to lead the process. They need to establish trust in the people of Barbados. They also need to put out the information in such a way that it would not cause unnecessary fear, panic, and anxiety. And I join with the president of the Barbados Association of Medical Practitioners, who came after and said to Barbadians, there's no need to panic as a result of that. Yes, there's no need to panic right now because there were only 2 cases over a 6-month period, and the country has the protocols in place to identify, to do the necessary screening and the alerts. But you need to bring the public of Barbados into your confidence and let them know the information that they ought to know to safeguard themselves, so that we can to intensify our level of vigilance. I'm thankful for the ad that is there now, which highlights for Barbadians the symptoms that they can look out for in cases of monkeypox. But there are other health concerns out there as well. There's dengue outbreaks in other parts of the region. There is also the Arapuchi virus, there are cases in Cuba, and there is a possibility that some cases can travel to Trinidad and other parts of the Caribbean possibly Barbados as well. We need to take healthcare and the putting out of information, and the Ministry of Health is responsible for that and doing it in a very in a way so as not to scare persons, but to put factual information out there. And I'm just asking the Minister of Health to give a full account of what is happening in Barbados. Have we followed the standards by the World Health Organization in terms of dealing with monkeypox and the mpox and the dissemination of information? Have we followed that information? Have we followed all of the protocols? And it is high time. The Minister of Health, I will remind Barbadians who he is. Senator Jerome Walker. He's been the Minister of Health for a number of years. When Dr. Brown was there, she was more vocal in the Ministry of Health. Currently, Ishmael, who has been sent there to replace Dr. Brown, not necessarily with the amount of advocacy as Dr. Brown. But we need to hear from the Minister of Health in Barbados. There are far too many health concerns in Barbados, and it's worrying people. You have a situation where people spend an entire day at a polyclinic to get medication. We need to do better for Barbadians. You have a situation where Barbadians spend 3 nights sitting in accident and emergency just waiting to see a doctor. I hate to hear the communication specialists at the QEH saying to people of Barbados, we are under constraints, do not come to QEH for help, for your health care. If you have a heart attack, what are you supposed to do? You're not giving them alternatives, because majority of the time, the fast track at the Sir Winston Scott is not operating the way how it ought to. The majority of times when Barbadians listen to him and they go to other healthcare facilities such as urgent care, and the doctor at urgent care says to them, well, your situation is grave and you need to go to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, nothing is done to those persons. The QEH needs to put in place a policy so that if you're telling people to seek alternative medical attention, they're doing that. And then the alternative medical attention sends them back to the QEH, because the only way that they can be treated is through the QEH. And then they have to sit out there in a queue just like any ordinary person and wait 3 days to be seen. And I know of situations where those doctors at places like FMH and urgent care would call ahead to the QEH and alert them of the situation. And you have the doctors in the various specialties who are waiting for those persons, but they cannot do anything until they're admitted by the accident and emergency department. The QEH needs to do better. And you cannot simply tell Bajans, do not come there for healthcare treatment. It is there to give healthcare treatment to the people of Barbados. So simply telling them, do not come because you're a burden, is not dealing with the healthcare situation in Barbados. And we need to hear the Minister of Health, Senator Dr. Jerome Walker, come and speak to the people of Barbados about this. Come and explain to the people of Barbados, take them into your confidence. Let them know what are the challenges you are facing. Is it manpower challenges? Is it the fact that you are not getting the financial resources that you need because you recognize that the government is now paying over $700 million in interest and loan payments? So has that cut you off of the money that you need to run the hospital? Because it probably has, because you have persons who are being told, pregnant women, to go elsewhere to pay for ultrasound. These are things that should not be happening in a modern day Barbados, when you have a prime minister flying all over the world trying to give people the impression that all is well in Barbados and we both here sucking salt. Well said. We need better from the persons who have been placed there to govern. They have said that they will govern by transparency and openness, and we're not getting that with them. So we need to have better. And I, as the spokesperson for health, will agitate and advocate for that. And as a senator, whichever legislation comes up in the Senate, I will join with Senator Ryan Walters, and I will advocate for that. And also give my full support to the opposition leader and the political leader of the Democratic Labour Party, Ralph Thorne, as we go out there and we connect with the people of Barbados. We hear your concerns and we are ready to represent your concerns. We are ready to give you a voice in a higher place, and we are asking the media of Barbados to highlight those pertinent issues, those issues that are the bread and butter issues of the people of Barbados that have people worrying. They've been waiting for 3 years for a call back from the hospital for an operation. They've wasted an entire day. You have to wait months in order to see a physiotherapist, those kind of things. Those are the bread and butter issues that worry and concern the people of Barbados, and that is what we need to focus our attention on. And I intend to use this opportunity in the Senate to address those issues. So, Minister of Health, Senator Jerome Walker, there are questions out there for you to answer. Find the time to do the job for the people of Barbados. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Worrell. We now move on to Ms. Shakwani Hunt. She will be introducing herself to you. Go ahead, Shakwani.
Good day, everyone.
Oh.
Good day, everyone. My name is Shakwani Hunt, and I am the spokesperson for Youth Affairs and Development. Today, I'm really coming to talk to you on a very serious matter and something that was going on in the media. We had a lot of questions about it. So we're coming to make it very clear. Over the past annual conference, a lot of people had concerns about why they were not seeing updates or messages or flyers about what is going on, the times, dates, and the activities. The DLP handles were compromised, or you can say hijacked, and we've made the executive decision to go forward and press on and create new handles. The reason we did that is because we need to be able to connect to you, the public, and we want the public to be able to connect to us. And we found that it was extremely important to handle this matter as swiftly as possible. And because of that, these are the new handles that we want you to reach out to, and this is what they will be called. The Barbados Opposition, that would be at Barbados Opposition, would go for YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you want to email the Office of the Opposition Leader, you can contact that office at barbadosopposition@gmail.com. I will repeat the handles for the Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages. It is at Barbados Opposition. If you want to reach out to the Democratic Labour Party's handles, the handle is now at DLP Barbados for Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And for Instagram, it is dlp.barbados. And the Democratic Labour Party's email address is democratic1955@gmail.com. I will repeat those handles again for the Democratic Labour Party's handle. The handle for Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube is DLP@BDS. And for Instagram, it is dlp.bds. For persons wondering if it is active, it will be live today. So please follow those pages so you can be updated on what is going on. We will be posting and updating the public on all activities that we'll be doing. And we want persons to bear with us and understand why we weren't posting. And we recognized that it was extremely important to get effects. And we want you to understand that we'll be bringing you updates constantly, and we want you to update us. So don't feel that you cannot reach out to us. We will have people responding to you. And if you do want to meet with us or request a meeting, you can also request that in the DMs, in the emails, or in the comments. We are here for the people of Barbados, and we want you to be able to contact us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shafani. We will now move on to Senator Brian Walters. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. And I beg your pardon, Mr. John. We now go on to Ms. John to introduce yourself.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I just wanted to add that I'm a proud woman and, of course, a feminist from the Democratic Labour Party. I believe in gender justice and equality for all men and women. And as we have seen, the crisis that we live in, that we have to provide support for both our brothers and our sisters, that's very critical. But as a spokesperson for education, it is imperative that I highlight some of the concerns that parents would have, because school will be reopening in the next few days, like perhaps a week or so. And it's important that we at least get some update from the Ministry of Education. We want to ensure that all the school plans are ready for the term, because we must understand that some of the schools will be used for the summer program. So we are hoping that when our students return back to the school, that the environment is conducive for learning, that we do not have any kind of environmental concerns, we do not have any security concerns. We are hoping that the ministry, all the planned repairs have been done and they have been very proactive. So we are hoping to get an update from the Ministry of Education on that matter. We are hoping that the Minister of Education comes out and gives us some information on that. In addition, we'd like to know a little bit more information on the education transform or transformation. We've heard quite a lot. This is another academic year, and we have not received any updates on this matter. We have been hearing about educational reform. We will not, and particularly parents. Parents would like to know what is happening with the educational reform plan that we spend so much money on in terms of launching it, and again, putting parents on the alert that these are the realities. We also would like to know about the appointments of teachers and principals, because we know every academic term, we're hearing about teachers not being appointed on time, principals being told the night before. So we are hoping that all those preparations have been done, because as parents are preparing their children to return to school in a week or so, we are hoping that the ministry is at the forefront to ensure that children and teachers will be coming back to an environment which is conducive, as I said before, in terms of the environment that you're entering. In addition, we are hoping that we have a more proactive communication between the ministry and all stakeholders, which would include parents as well. We are hoping that the different PTAs and the various schools have met to address any of the concerns that you've had. In addition, we are hoping that there's a lot more in terms of the intervention, because as we've been hearing, we've been seeing a lagging in the grades in mathematics and reading and English. We are hoping that those programs, those kinds of remedial programs are being helped, so that young persons, the young children, can get the help and assistance that is required. Because it's not only in terms of the 11 plus, we're seeing what the grades look like, but also at CXC level. There's a very, very alarming concern of what the grades are looking at in terms of maths and English. So we are hoping that the interventions are on stream. We are hoping that teachers get this kind of support that is required. And also, I just like to share that the Democratic Labour Party is also thinking, and we are working in terms of policy, and I hope the opposition leader and political leader allows me to say that we are hoping that to start a breakfast program for our children. We understand the climate that we are living in. Parents are struggling. So yes, we understand that we provide them with the school meals at lunchtime, but children need a healthy breakfast. And some of the children in our school system do not get access to that. And I'm sure that you have heard our opposition leader speak quite in length about children going to school hungry and not being able to stay in class, they are learning class, because of the various kinds of dynamics from home. So we are hoping that as an incoming government, these are some of the programs that we are hoping to establish, having breakfast programs at all schools so that all children have an access, because we do not want, and we see it. Some of us in our communities know that there are children who go to school and do not go to school with breakfast. And that's very important. It's very important that we not only educate the minds of our children, but we ensure that they are healthy, which also leads me to the national health policy. We are hoping to get some updates on that. We do know that the various schools did receive some updates as to healthy programs, healthy eating programs. I believe that the school meals programs will be updated as well, so that the sugary foods will be adjusted. So all of those matters, again, it's very important. Again, parents, the Democratic Labour Party is there to support you. We are there to enable you. We are here about the fitness of the people. We are here to provide the support that is there for you. And we are hoping that the Ministry of Education updates the public as soon as possible. School is barely in a few days, in 2 weeks. And we have not heard the ministry. So what the Democratic Labour Party will be doing, we will be doing our own walkthroughs to ensure that our children, I personally, and the public knows me well enough, that I will be going through the schools, some of the schools, to see the conditions of the schools to ensure that our children are in an environment which is conducive for learning. So the support should be there in terms of education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dujan.
She has an announcement.
Ms. Hunt has an announcement. Go ahead.
I just have a quick announcement. The commission created by the opposition leader is having its first town hall meeting this Sunday at George Street Auditorium. When our pages are up to date and live, we will have the flyer posted with more information, so you would know what time it's starting and everything else. We just want to keep people informed as we know the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hunt. That brings us to the end of the presentations, and we now open the floor to members of the media. Please state your name first and the media house that you represent. Thank you.
First of all, good to see you. Mr. Thorne, you mentioned about a dignified departure as it relates to response. In your opinion, do you think that it was dignified in the way that she was informed about her departure to being notified by the media?
I don't know how she was informed. Let her say how she was informed.
Did you inform her?
She was informed.
Officially?
On Sunday, I believe she was at the place.
But no official correspondence.
I haven't written to her. If you want me to make up a lie, I could. I'm here to tell the truth. And I announced it. I announced it on Sunday during my speech. And I have no intention of revisiting. I'm not going to make an issue of that. There are too many things happening in Barbados, and the media, mainstream nor social media, will draw me into any further contention, rancor, war on that. It's done. It's done. And people in Barbados are still suffering. It is not the main item on this country's agenda. It's done. This is the new senator here. The Senate is fully constituted, 21 persons. And I'm not going to be drawn into any discussion on how people heard, when they heard, why they did not hear. That is not an issue for us. It is not. I hope nobody gets killed this weekend. I hope nobody gets killed next week, nor the week after. I pray that nobody gets killed. I pray that prices in the supermarkets stay at the level they are now. That's what I'm praying for. I am not revisiting nonsense. And I will not be drawn into it. I have given the media a history of these matters. You know, I forgot to mention Maria Agar. You know, the media never went around asking, this lady was expelled while she was in the parliament. And the media did not go around asking, why is it that the persons who brought the complaint against her sat in judgment over her? The principle of natural justice was violated to this young lady's disadvantage. Was not made a big story then. It is not a big story now, but that lady, that bright young lady, dentist, politician, her career, her political career was destroyed. We don't treat that as an issue because nobody cares about her. She was expelled while she was a member of parliament. She went to a parliament as a member of the Barbados Labour Party and endured her final days in that parliament in the wilderness. Nobody in the media, mainstream nor social, came to her defense with any sympathetic regard. Not a fella. Let the lady go with her dignity intact. I will not be drawn into any further discussion on it.
Follow up to that question. You mentioned more practical issues in Ukraine.
We're living in the middle of it.
What are your solutions?
My solutions, if you listen to me in Parliament, I don't want to shout at you. While I was in the DLP parliamentary group, I addressed the parliament and I talked about 4 strategic approaches to crime. The immediate one, the military response. That's your camera? The immediate one, the military response. 2, the legislative response. And those are 2 with immediate effect. The other 2 are more long-term, but they're necessary. The socio-economic. That is to say, giving people employment and worthy employment. That's difficult, but it has to be done. You have to commit resources to the young people of this country rather than committing $188 million to allow a prime minister to travel the world and to seek photo opportunities with presidents. I'm saying it because I'm angry. I'm shouting not at you, Ms. Hoyt, but I'm shouting at the government. It is time that the government stop. 3 people go to China last week to say that they are declaring that Barbados is in solidarity with one China policy. A waste of public monies. When the welfare department is crying out for more money to give to its candidates, and y'all come in here asking me about whether I gave somebody a message. Well, the 4th response is this, the cultural response. It is time that this government discourages our young people from displaying themselves in a vulgar manner. It is time this government stops conveying to young people in this country that material acquisition is the only form of success and fulfillment. It is time this government withdraws itself from that level of participation in the cultural life of this country. That is what is important. Those are the approaches that I recommended while I was a backbencher. The military response determined how the police and the military, the defense force will deal with this issue. The second one, the legislative response, the government rushed to parliament after I said to deal with the Bail Act. They rushed in there and did a Bail Act that spoke no differently from the previous Bail Act. This one does very little more, if any more at all. It is cosmetic. The changes are cosmetic. The parliament should have taken the initiative and legislated that persons should not qualify for bail a second or a third time. Instead, they have given it, they've exported it. That's the term I use. They have exported it to the courts. They are telling the judges to do what they should have had the courage to do. And that's the legislative response. I asked them to implement anti-gang legislation. I could go into details and I could tell you why this government does not want to do anti-gang legislation. I'm not going to say it today, but if they don't do it soon, Ms. Hoyt, you can be assured that I am going to expose this government's relationship with certain elements in this country. You hear me? I'm going to do it because the safety of the people of this country, the security of the people of this country is at risk. You have a 12-year-old with a gunshot to her wrist. You have children playing outside and scampering. And what's the government saying? Oh, guns don't kill people, people kill people. What utter nonsense. It's inane. A lot of inane, empty statements, vacuous statements statements that do not solve the problem of crime. And this is who we are, and all kinds of nonsense that we've had to put up with over the last 6 years. And crime is getting worse. And when you talk to people, and I say you, I mean the Prime Minister of this country, the Prime Minister of this country has to learn how to address the people that she claims she loves. I hear the Prime Minister speaking, and her language is at a certain level and quality. I heard this the other day, and then at a part of her speech, she said, and one up on the blocks. So when you come to the men on the blocks, your language moves from the standard English into a dialectal quality because they're not anybody. You use any kind of language with them. And when you're addressing them, one up on the blocks because you believe that that's all they're worthy of. That's their relationship. That's this government's relationship with the people that they claim to love. Condescension, contempt, and insult of their intelligence. Look, a lot of those men on the blocks went to Combermere, Harrison College, Ellerslie. They had a good education. But when you come to address them, you claim to love them so much, but you can't address them in the same language that you address the corporate boardrooms because you feel they're nobody. Well, look, next week, talking about corporate boardrooms, we come in to the Barbados Water Authority very shortly because the people must understand the future of water in this country. They must start to understand what is happening with water. And if Mr. Halliday chooses to speak as to why he departed, he can choose to speak or not to speak. But water delivery to the people of this country is under threat by government's policies. There's a shadow, there's a cloud hanging over water distribution of this country. Everybody in Barbados is entitled to water. Everybody's entitled to it. You have to pay for its delivery. But there's a time that will come when we will insist that the government should maintain its hand in water delivery. But I've given a long answer to a very short question that you asked. But in terms of cultural decay in this country, this government bears heavy responsibility for it. Heavy responsibility. Thank you very much, Ms. Hoy. And I'm sorry I raised my voice at some point. I'm not angry at you.
Actually,
Sasha.
Ryan Joseph Barbados.
Yes, right.
You mentioned the whole situation that homicide number 33.
What's that street?
33, if I'm not
Homicide
mistaken.
number 33.
Yes.
Murder number 33.
Yes.
Two things. I know that the Commission on Crime, led by Lieutenant Albert,
Yes.
they had their first meeting, and if I remember correctly, during your presentation on Sunday, you mentioned that there was some outcomes already. Would you
Preliminary report.
would you be
No, I wouldn't disclose the content of a preliminary report. But you would have heard Ms. Hunt say that the first meeting is on Sunday, the town hall. You may find that interesting.
okay? Then in that case, we have the peace program.
Peace program, huh?
By your estimation, is there more that initiative could do?
The word more would suggest that it did something. In the aftermath of the peace program, what has happened in Barbados? Barbados has become more violent, but we were hearing that it succeeded. Now, Mr. Lane has disappeared and gone quiet and silent on the issue. Everybody now knows the public judgment on the peace program is that it has failed this country miserably. In fact, we may want to suggest that the so-called peace program may have contributed to the escalation of violence. You can't take up the taxpayers' money and give to people who are themselves deeply involved in crime. You don't do that. Jamaica admitted that it failed with it. Trinidad admitted that it failed with it. But all of a sudden, we felt that we could succeed with it. And therefore, Mr. Lane has gone silent on that. It has failed the people of this country. You know what's the next program? Give them $100,000 football tournament. Let's see how that goes. Let's see how that goes. Tokenism, patronage, condescension. Oh, they're only poor little black boys. Give them 100, let them run about behind the football. And at the end of it, let them fight for $100,000. And at the end of that, what? What happens at the end of that? Tell them. Let the government tell those young men when the football has ended, how would it have transformed their lives and the lives of their community and the life of this country? Tell them how. That's this government. Somebody seems to think up this government's policies when they drive into work in a car. Chauffeur driven, and you come up with something. Oh, this is a bright idea. Let's do football. This program failed. Let us wait for the football. They put fences around the people's playing fields. And the people in Barbados want the fences to come down. Because the men in Bayfield, the men and the women and the children in Bayfield want to leave home and walk on the Bayfield. You got a fence around it. You know why they put up those fences? Because the plan of the government had been to transform those recreational areas into areas of economic activity. In other words, fence. Give them a fence. And the plan of this government had been to transform recreational areas into zones of entertainment, paid entertainment. In other words, if you want to come in there to shake your legs, you got to pay. what used to be football and cricket and children running around freely on evenings. You put a fence around it and call it a mini stadium. You don't have one track. You don't have a sand pit. You have nothing. Symbolism, empty symbolism, fooling people in Barbados that you're doing something to transform their lives. And you're doing nothing. And everything at the bottom of it is sinister. Everything is sinister in this country. This government has lost its way. This government has lost its way. And nothing that they do is yielding any positive result. All it is doing is pushing people further down. You think we are here to make sport? We're not here to make any sport. The business of this country is serious business. If you have a young man, you 2 men dying every week. If you have the young people in this country emigrating with a sense of hopelessness, you think politics is a joke? You think politics is an occasion to almost use a word that I shouldn't use, to walk up on Calypsonians and look for popularity and feel that you're so cool and feel that because you could gyrate behind an entertainer that you're cool, that you're acceptable? It is not acceptable. It is not acceptable. Standards in this country have dropped. Not only moral standards, but standards in governance. The drop of the moral in moral standards reflects the drop in standards of governance. The people of this country have stopped taking this government seriously. They have stopped taking them seriously, and their only response, as Mr. Abrams said a few weeks ago, man, let's give some money to our influencers. They're propagandists. Let's pay them. Look at the people who are leading government's dialogue with the people. Government is not leading it. You go on social media, I could call the names for you, right? I could call the names for you. And these are not people who you should be listening to. A propagandist is essentially a liar. And government has hired liars. They have 29 parliamentarians in the House of Assembly and 12 in the Senate. 29 plus 12, 41. And you have to hire influencers to tell the public the lies, to tell the public what is your program, to attack us, to attack this team, to attack this young man over the last 24 hours. They launched some vicious attacks on him. I almost cried when I saw it. You heard his CV this morning. They heard it. They said the worst things about this young man over the last 24 hours. So I haven't come here. They expected me to come here and to disparage the person he replaced. Not into that business, Miss Hoyt. Whether she heard or did not hear, that is not the issue. The issue is that you live under immoral, incompetent, unfit, and corrupt government. That's the issue in Barbados today. And whether Ms. Watson heard or not, is not the issue. If some people in the media and social media want to make that an issue that will drive us into next year, I'm sorry, it has no legs. What has legs is the hardship that the people in this country are facing from day to day. You ever stood in a supermarket line and saw a lady behind you ask you to help her with a grocery bill? You ever got an electricity bill that you didn't know how to pay? You ever stood up at a bus stop for 3 hours? You know the anger that people feel when these things happen, when they have no access to the social amenities. You know the wrong that is going on in this country. You know that churches in this country feel that there's no relationship between them and the government. You know the churches in this country believe that the government, I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it. But there's a distance between the government and the churches of this country. There's a distance between the government and the police service in this country. There's a deep gulf. This government has lost its way, has lost the support of its social agencies. This government is presiding over a public service that several people at the highest levels are going home, not only in anger and frustration, but they're going home in fear because they feel that they don't have a voice when they interact with government ministers and particularly the Prime Minister of this country. Ask them. Ask the civil servants who have gone home before the age of 65. Ask the civil servants who are home on sick leave, who are suffering psychologically, who are being harried and intimidated in their jobs Ask them. Ask them. So, Miss Hoyt, whether we told or did not tell, if you want to be writing and speaking on that in December, that's a matter for you. But the people in Barbados not interested in. What they're interested in is the plight of this country. What they're interested in is that their 16 and 17-year-olds, they're going to lose them shortly. They'll either lose them to death or they're going to lose them to emigration. The young people in this country have no interest in staying here. As I said on Sunday, people used to leave this country. People used to emigrate from this country because they were looking for better. They're now emigrating because they want to avoid the worst that this country is offering them. This country is not offering our young people anything. Anything. And somebody feels that whether somebody got a letter or a telephone call. I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that. It's done. It's over. There's a new senator. His name is Andre Worrell. He comes with merit. And they can insult him as much as they want to. We sit here in solidarity with him. And we're going to defend him. And we're going to offer ourselves as an alternate government of decent people, people of integrity, people of honesty, and above all, people of courage. Because it is courage that is the enabling virtue of the others. That's how we come to you. That's how we come to you, media. And we respond to you. But we have no intention of responding to the psychopaths on social media. They are mercenaries. They are being paid to shoot down people's reputations. They are being paid to assassinate people's character. Look at them. I can call the names, but I would not besmirch this occasion by calling those names. Wouldn't. I would not. Thank you very much.
Next question.
Mr. Thorne,
Yes, Ricardo.
I just wanted to find out what would have informed your decision to replace Senator Watson.
What would have informed it? It's done. It's done. Please do not expose the lady's record of service nor her departure to further public scrutiny. It's done. It's done. What's done is done. Let the young lady go on peacefully. And let this party go on not only peacefully, but progressively. With a team that is united. Look at us. We're not clowns, we're not comedians. We're serious about the business of this country. And you've seen the ills. What I want is for the mainstream media to start reporting on the ills of this government. That's what we want. But if there's this obsession with Miss Watson, you're going to lose the people. Put it on your front page for 6 days and see how many papers you sell. It's done. Let it rest. Let it rest. Nobody's ego is that big that they want to be on the front page for 6 days. It's done. It's done.
Next question.
Barry, I'm from the Nation newspaper.
Hello, Barry.
Good afternoon, Council. I have two questions.
Yes.
I need to crave your indulgence for about 20 seconds to preface the first question.
Mhm.
There's a school of thought that exists and persists in Barbados. It's persisted for maybe the last 24, 28 months. The electorate, in its own wisdom, has decided that it is dissatisfied with what is considered the old guard of the Democratic Labour Party. And it showed that the states for that old guard in 2011 results. So the question for you is, as leader of the opposition of this party, what, if anything, do you think you can do to transition that school of thought backwards? How can these elder states, men states, women, still be a vibrant part of the Democratic Labour Party and be part of this Democratic Labour Party going forward? Do you think they still have a part to play? Do you think they still have an important part to play? How can you get them back on the side of the electorate to believe that they are that they can do something?
Yes.
That's the first question.
Yes. First question. You premised it by saying that the people believe. Now, I was in my car, I think on Thursday or Wednesday, and I was listening, I was hearing brass stats. And a man called in and said he knows what the people in Barbados are thinking. So there's a cadre of people now in this country who have been given some ability to say what the people are thinking. That's an amazing ability that I don't know who's given them that. This is what the people are thinking. How do you know what the people are thinking? How do you know? Do you interview 100,000 people every week? How do you know? So your premise is false, Mr. Allen, with all due respect. None of us in this room, including me, can say what the people writ large are thinking. That is flawed reasoning. Unless you take a poll, a serious poll, why do you arrogate that unto yourself? Like the man on the radio, nobody knows what the people are thinking. The people will say what they're thinking very shortly. And this question of old guard, let me say this to you. You cannot go into any political party and dismiss people. You can't do that. You don't do that. That is destructive. And this talk about old guard and fresh guard and new guard and middle guard, we're not into that. We are into unifying people. It is a political party, for God's sake. You couldn't go in there. You can't go in there and say to people, I don't want you, I don't want you. That's arrogance. That is a level of arrogance that is unprecedented. Unprecedented. You don't do that. You go into a party, you unite the party, and you try to get the best out of that party. Simple. I can't go in the nation because Barry Allen has 26 years and say, well, he too old, let's get rid of him. Let's get Miss Ho Chi young. If I came in there and did that, Barry, the organization would collapse. Doesn't matter. And I come in there and say, oh, the people think that Barry is part. What? Shelf life is the term they use? Sell by date. Sell by date gone. You don't do that, Barry. You don't do that. It's unkind. It's cats. It's brutal. It's wrong. It's unjust. It's immoral. It's unchristian. You don't do that. You do not come into a party at any level and brand the person, your old guard. Goodbye. And then you justify it by saying, well, that's what the people think. You don't do that. You don't do that. That's not how Christians behave.
Second question.
Please.
During your soliloquy, you spoke about
Soliloquy.
I don't think I'm being punished with that. You spoke about some people from outside this area, from overseas, joining the party.
Yes,
And young
yes.
people being interested in the party.
I am
And
telling you
also
the
spoke
truth.
about during campaigning that people have been telling you,
Us.
get your house, the Democratic Party,
Yes.
get your house in order.
John 360.
So my question for you,
Mhm.
is the BLP house in order?
Let me introduce you again. Senator Ryan Walters, Senator Andrew World. This is one of the outstanding people in Barbados. You see this lady behind there? Miss Maxine McLean. Look at the front. And this is not all. We are going forward, Barry. We are going forward. Look, the fishermen met this week with Mr. Adrian Ford. I don't know what you think of Mr. Adrian Ford. I'm not here to disparage him. But the fishermen left that meeting saying that the government is incompetent. And rather than look at the government's obvious incompetence, y'all are ready to judge meritorious and worthy young people and to dismiss them because they don't belong to the circle of the tyrant. You have to belong to the circle of the tyrant to be meritorious and politically worthy. We are presenting to this country a team of meritorious and worthy people. You can think that there are nobodies if you want. But the fishermen, ask the fishermen who are the incompetent people in government that they met with. Ask the cricketers and the sports people and the BCA in Barbados and the CWI when they organized Cricket World Cup and they could not see the Minister of Sports once. He doesn't belong to the circle of the tyrant. He disappeared. And the judgments are being made of an opposition party that has not yet occupied government. And the glaring and obvious incompetence is before your eyes and you don't cast judgment, you don't make a statement about it. Mr. Charles Griffith was absent when the storm was coming and they should have been down, the tyrant should have been down by the boats, ensuring that they be put onto the open areas of Barbados, but she was out there posing as a minister of sport, and poor Charles probably down in the bleachers somewhere, could not be seen. She's walking out with Gary and Chris Gale. She is the face of sports. She is the one making the comments about the worth of her ministers. She has no confidence in them. She doesn't trust them. And she has demonstrated that she has never trusted them. She is accused of micromanaging, not only by the people of Barbados, but Barry, by her own ministers. Get them in a quiet moment at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're honest. And they will tell you that they don't like the fact that their prime minister puts them under a shadow of anonymity in this country, that they're not allowed to function. We have never had a minister, a prime minister, who has so diminished her ministers. Paris speaks. You see them, Barry, who is speaking whole night. You have a set of public servants and a array of public servants, and the mannequins, the ministers, I call them mannequins, next to her. Not a word. You ever saw the mannequins at Cape Shepherd speaking? Same thing. Same thing. That is the quality of government that we have in this country. The media isn't focusing on them. They're focusing on us. We invite the focus because we're going to be democratic, we're going to be intelligent, we're going to be worthy, we're going to be meritorious, and we're going to be compassionate. Yeah? We're not going to be condescending. Compassion and condescension are two different words. Compassion is a genuine concern for the lives and the welfare of people. Condescension is just what it is. Just what it is. Disrespect, contempt, a diminution of the public. You believe that you're above them. And you believe that all you need to come and do is give them a peck. And that is all they're worth. That's a soliloquy if you like it.
Any other questions?
So, not going off of just the opinion person, going off of the last two elections where the Democratic Party suffered 230 mil defeats. What would you say, not directly to the people who are looking at that? If the Democratic Party isn't that much different, what would you say to those people that would have voted 30 love for the last two elections? What is really different this time that they should vote?
Look, in logic, there's the fallacy of false authority. You come with false authority again. What do we say to people who say? Who are these people saying this? You have some names as well of the people who are saying this.
I'm going based off of the last two elections where the Democratic Party lost.
We are not contesting the last two elections. We are contesting the next election. That's what we are contesting. And all of these criticisms of an election that hasn't come, a party that hasn't found itself in the election, young man, the election will come and you will hear from us. Before the election comes, you're hearing from us. This is the 5th press conference we have done in the space of a short time. What more does the media want, blood? You have heard from us. We have been open with you. We have been open. What else do you want? Do you want us to say that we are unfit? We are fit. And we are faithful to God too. So drop the stereotypes. Do a microscopic examination of the government. Stop telling me about 30 loves and tell me about the love that this government clearly does not have for this country. 30 love, 30 love, 30 love. That is the only tune that they can sing. 33 people, 30 plus 3 got killed this year. Okay? And some in broad daylight for the first time in the history of this country. Relate to that. Blame the opposition for that. Extricate your mind from the stereotypes. Get used to the fact that this government is doing disservice, doing political disservice in this country. Get used to that. Do get used to it. But if you're happy with the administration, don't find a sophisticated way to say it. Don't attack us because you want to defend the government, and this is not you personally. Don't attack us because you want to defend the government. Yes, don't do it. But if you're a historian and you want to look at 30 loves, look at the quality of the government's performance over the last 6 years. Drop the 30 love tune and go to every day of that 6 years and tell me what this government has achieved. Tell me that this government that should have been giving your child an education within a proper system came to you and told you they're going to middle school, and then a few weeks later told you they're dropping middle school. Go to the government and ask them why they asked your 7 and 10 and 13-year-old child about their sexual orientation. That pleases you? That pleases the young people of Barbados? Or they're more obsessed with the number 30 love? I'll tell you, some of them will get some heart attacks, you know. Let them keep talking about 30 love all the time. Let them keep failing the people of this country. and let them encourage young men like you to live in this mindset. Oh, 30 love, 30 love, 30 love. And that's the beginning and the end of political analysis in Barbados. It's not. Things are happening in this country that need your attention as a young man. I don't know how old you are, but you are at greater risk than I am. You could die. You could die with a gunshot. I could too. But I've had more time than you. God has given me more time than he's given you. But you could die because this government is failing you. Your safety and security is at risk, my friend. And you have to understand and accept that. So either you could die or you could choose to emigrate. That is what is happening among bright young people in this country. Some of those men dying are bright. Some of them are bright. And a lot of the bright ones are emigrating. What kind of society is being left behind? Some of our young women are in crisis because they can't find a partner that is equal to them in terms of moral perspective. It is hurting family life. It is hurting family life. It is as serious as that. So get out of this obsession with 30 love, 30 love, 30 love. And I say, deal with the love that this government has not given this country. That's the love we should focus on. And then.
Any more questions? That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, members of the media. And that brings an end to our press conference this morning. Thank you again.
We're live from Georgia, a key battleground state in the race for the White House. In just moments, the current U.S. president will debate the former U.S. president as their party's presumptive nominees, a first in American history. We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to our studios in Atlanta. This is the CNN presidential debate.
This debate is being produced by CNN and is coming to you live on CNN, CNN International, CNN.com, CNN Max, and CNN Espanol. This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump in their rematch for the nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of State of the Union.
I'm Jake Tapper, anchor of CNN's The